Hello there, this is Stephen Ball at Delphi Ball, and in this video I'm going to be looking at creating a report via RAD server. So let's get in. So the basic stages through this video are going to be creating the report first and foremost. We're going to be using fast reports. Now there's a difference between VCL and FireMonkey version of fast reports. One of those key differences is a number of exporters that are available. Now the PDF exporter, which is what I want to use here, is available for VCL only at the moment, and hence I'm going to be using the VCL version. Now the VCL version, being Windows based, does tie this example to being deployed via RAD server on Windows, so you can't use a Linux distribution to deploy this. Now there may be the ability for somebody to set up Wine and run that out through that. I haven't covered that, I'm not going to be looking into that, but I'll leave that to you to have a look at. So the stages I'm going to go through is, first and foremost, producing my report in a quick sample application on VCL, and then being able to take the components setup that I've developed and convert that into a silent export, and I'll show you what I've done to go through that. And then we'll look at how I've been able to convert that into a RAD server resource. Now, doing a RAD server resource to use on your development machine is relatively straightforward. The key thing there, once we define the resource endpoints and the parameters, is that this is now using BPLs, and the BPL packages have dependencies which are also on my development machine. So the next step is really, how do we get this into production? How do we deploy it? And I'll show you how you can use the PA server to deploy up to a Windows server, or even locally onto your own machine, and to then find out all the other related BPLs that are required as part of the deployment. So the standard RAD server install includes the base BPLs, but because we're actually defining use with the VCL framework here, there's going to be some additional dependencies which we can then easily find using PA server. So that's the outline. Let's get in and make this happen. Okay, so I'm just in the RAD Studio IDE here, and I've got this project called Fast Reports BB Examples. Now this follows on from the basketball examples that I've been doing recently, and here I have a form. On my form I've just got this query which is providing a lookup to the exams that are part of my database, and I've got here also the exams table, the questions and the answers, so give me the master, detail relationships. I've also got added in here the Fast Reports database dataset component, which links into the data source, which links to the query, and this is used then to give a name for the data within the fast reports. In the fast reports I've actually generated an example layout here, which has the exam, and it has the exam name, active date, pass score, the attempts that you can take of it, and the exam ID. And then within there there's detail, so we have the list of questions and then the answers available. And I've also done some bits in here just to colour code the correct answer based on the other fields and so on. Now I'm not going to dig into how to do all that. There's a great session by Ray Konopka that's on YouTube, which I'll put a link to underneath this video for you to have a look at. Now it's also in the blog post. So once I've managed to kind of get the report working, and you can do that with the preview commands, I've added in this exporter, and the exporter here allows you to define additional information like running in the background. You can set it to show dialogues to false, so it doesn't show any dialogues. You can set protection properties, a number of different properties you can set around this. And what I've done here in the example is just to try and get it working so it generates without producing any additional dialogue. So I know it's going to work in a server environment where we can't have any interaction. So first and foremost, just to be able to test it against different examples to make sure it's working okay, I'm just taking the key value and putting it into my parameter and loading that up. Obviously this needs to be refactored later on. And I'm also using a save dialog here, so I can actually just get a file name, a temporary file name to put it into. That allows me to again just check the output that's coming through once it's been created. So the key part here is, we're getting the exam opened and then running the report through. I'm using a file stream with the file name that we're putting into, just to create a stream that we're going to be saving it into. And the PDF export here takes a stream, which we're then able to prepare the report into this stream when we export it out. We can then free up the stream and just set the exporter stream back to nil, and we're then good and done. So that should be all we need to do. And let's go ahead and just kind of test that here. So here's my quiz. Let's just go ahead and generate, let's call this RT1, rules test 1. And let's go ahead and, we've got this here, this is rule 4, so let's just call this R4. So let's go and have a quick look at those, just to make sure we've got something sensible outputting. I can see it's a PDF document here. I can see, yeah, this is looking good. I can see my report. And this is picking up the correct report. This is rules 4. So again, different answers, different types of setup. I can see what the correct answers are, what aren't, what isn't right, and so on. So good, I've got my prototype working. Now let's try and get this single button click into a method we can expose through RAD server. So I've created a new package already, just to save time on the video here. And the first thing you need to do is you need to get the components in here. Now the first thing that will happen is you'll get an error. And what you need to do is you need to come and change this class group to VCL control. Otherwise the VCL controls, like FRX report 1, which are specifically for VCL, won't work. So you need to put those, you need to change the resource here, the report resource here, to be the correct class group. Now this one's called reports resource 1 because it is reports was the name I put into the wizard when creating the package. I've literally just kept the get item and updated the get item so it is going to reports exam because it's an exam report, and then I'm passing in exam ID 1 or 3452 or whatever it is going to be. So I've named the parameter here to make sure I get the named parameter. Within here then I just need to make sure that I'm asking for that named parameter that is coming in, and then I'm able to convert that first part of the code. Here I'm just putting a try except block around. Now the key thing here, instead of having it from my list, I'm then just taking in the parameter. This also allows me, using parameterized queries, to be able to capture any invalid response that's been put in, or request should I say. And I can use the a response raise not found, so if I get an invalid item put in, I can put that in. If we do have some valid data, then it's the same code as before here. The only thing is, instead of using the save dialog, we're using tpath.getTemp file name, which will give me a temporary file name that's unique that I can use for the generation of the report. And now once that's freed and that's saved, the PDF is then as a document on my server, and I can then set about sending that back to the client. Now the key thing here is to set the stream to applications -PDF or /PDF. That will then push the file stream for the file that we've just read back in out. So that's great. We've now got that. I can test this locally on my local machine. So let's just go ahead and run. Oh, it helps if I select the BPL for a quick test. We can see that the reports exam ID endpoint has been published, so let's just go ahead and do that. Reports exam 1, and we can see here now we're generating a PDF. Now that's happening locally. As I said, we've got things that we're reliant upon, BPLs that we're reliant upon to make that happen on my local machine that aren't necessarily going to be on my deployment. So what I've done next is I'm going to be deploying into a 64-bit environment. So I've edited the property here for my target and added in a new profile pointing to a PA server instance that's installed on my Windows server. So let's go and have a quick look. Here's my Windows server. and I've downloaded and installed PA Server, which is in the PA Server directory under RAD Studio. If you just go to the location for that, you can just go and type in PA Server to get that to run. Pop in the password as you would do on a Mac deployment. And I can then check the IP address and so on and so forth. Now from here, all you need to do is go ahead and build and deploy. So let's go to Project Deployment. It will tell you that it needs to compile. Okay, go ahead and do that, please. And now I just need to choose Deploy, and it might ask again just to recompile it to make sure there's been no changes in the meantime. And it's now going through working out what BPLs need to be delivered to make this work. So if we go up to our Windows server now and go and have a look in the PA Server directory, so we go to C, Programs, Embarcadero, PA Server 20, you'll find the Scratch directory here. There's a folder for the name that you gave your PA Server from your Windows machine. And in here you'll be able to see different applications that have been deployed up. Now I've already deployed up my exams package, and I've also now got here my RAD server reports. Here's my RAD server reports, and what you'll be able to find that in here are all the BPLs that you require. So you literally just need to copy everything that's in there and then go and put that into your deployment folder. So I've already done that. I'll show you where that is though. And inetpub, I have a RAD server folder, and under RAD server I've just copied all my deployment files in here. Now part of the installation that you can get through Getit, it will go ahead and put the EMS dev server in here as well. And you can actually test now to make sure this is all working on this remote machine. So I can see my my exams endpoint, that's working. Great. Let's go ahead and reports 352. Great, now that's working on my local host. So at the point you've got everything working, all the dependencies should be on the machine. You should then be able to just go ahead and use that through IIS. Now, one of the key things obviously, make sure that you've registered your BPLs within the EMS ini file. And as long as you've done that, then you'll be able to go ahead and use them. So for more details about that, please have a look at the blog post. Hope you found that useful, and just to show that it is actually all working here, I'm just going to go ahead and do a call to my EMS server. We can see here, here's the version, and if we have a look at the exams, we can see, just need to reload that, there we are. Cache page from earlier, so exams are all there, so I can go ahead and call exam, say 352. And let's have a look at the questions for that exam. So we can see the questions. So let's now go ahead and put this into a report. Reports exams 352. And we can now see that calling it through our DLL, we're getting our file back out. So I hope you found that useful. That was creating reports via RAD server. Just a quick recap, we've had a look at doing the prototyping and then using PA server to deploy up to the server our BPL and getting that into the live environment. Thanks very much for joining us, and see you again soon.